This is John Murphy, a volatile judge with anger issues, who got fired up for the wrong reasons. It all began in a trial in Florida that Murphy was overseeing. During the hearing, the judge got into a verbal altercation with the public defense attorney. Judge Murphy grew increasingly frustrated with the public defender, Andrew Weinstock, because he refused to waive his client's Sixth Amendment, the right to a speedy trial, causing an explosion nobody saw coming.
This is an emergency
if I
created by
had a
the
rock,
state.
I would throw it at you right now.
Stop
pissing me off. Just sit down. I'll take care of it. I don't need your help.
No,
sit
you know
down.
what? I'm the public defender. I have a right to be here, and I have a right to stand
said
and represent
sit
my
down.
clients.
If you want to fight, let's go out back and I'll just beat
Let's go
your
out
ass.
They left the courtroom and got into a physical fight outside. As expected, the Florida Supreme Court removed Murphy from his position. It's incredible that this can happen in a court of law. But what happens when the judges are as cruel as criminals? Much like Judge Robert Nally, a man who violently lost his temper with Delvon King. Due to a gambling weapon charge, King was wearing an electric shock bracelet on his ankle because half a year ago he broke through court security and escaped his trial. After this, King advocated for his rights during a new hearing and defended himself. Unfortunately, this would cost him dearly. His judge was Robert Nally, a person in power with a bad temper, a dangerous recipe. Throughout the trial, Delvon spoke incessantly, defending himself and pleading his case. This obviously frustrated the judge, who was on the brink of collapse. Nally ordered Delvon to shut his mouth. King continued talking to the fullest extent. The tension was growing as silence took over the courtroom. The verbal confrontation between Delvon King and Judge Robert Nally reached its boiling point. As a result, the judge ordered a 50,000-volt electric shock to be applied directly to his body.
Stop. Mr. Sheriff, do it. Use it. All right, I'm going to take 5.
The pain was unbearable. Delvon's panicked screams echoed in the courtroom, a terrible torture. Fortunately, Judge Nally did not go unpunished, being brought to trial for the incident. He pleaded guilty to the violation of civil rights. He was sentenced to 1 year of probation and was ordered to attend anger management classes with a fine of $5,000. Magistrate brutality has no place in the justice system. Neither does racism, like the case of Judge James Convery, a man whose ethnic slurs shocked the courtroom. Convery was the judge in charge of the divorce case of Benjamin Taylor and his wife. Now, the incident occurred after Benjamin's wife's lawyer requested a copy of his Social Security income statement to establish his total annual earnings. His defense lawyer, Yvette Ramos Alvarez, informed the court he did not have the statements, but Judge Convery was not receptive, telling Alvarez everyone receives their Social Security sent to their home, and after saying she hadn't got it herself, he said the unthinkable.
Judge, I don't.
Don't you get it?
No, I don't get it.
You don't
get it, Judge.
I get it.
I don't get it.
You get it? You get it? Everybody gets it.
Everybody gets it.
Social Security sends it to your home
They do.
every year.
They sent it to my home 4 years ago. I haven't received it in the last 3.
Well, when did you become an illegal alien?
Judge, I am going to. That was a totally inappropriate comment.
I didn't mean it. I'm only listen to me.
Alvarez, highly insulted, filed a misconduct complaint against Judge Convery. The New Jersey Supreme Court ended up issuing a public reprimand. Racism or any crime has no place in our system. A true pillar of the law is Judge Julie Lynch, an emotional victim of a repulsive being. The accused, Terry McFadden, a 70-year-old predator responsible for this sickening crime. McFadden's wife ran a daycare in Ohio within their home. The event occurred on days when his wife, due to various errands, left the house, leaving McFadden alone to supposedly care for the children. What happened? McFadden raped a 4-year-old girl and another 6-year-old girl between September 2018 and April 2019. A despicable crime deserving of the strongest punishment. After the incident was discovered, he was arrested, and custody of the children was taken away from him and his wife. During McFadden's trial, Judge Julie Lynch became emotional and enraged, expressing her outrage about the incident and showing her complete disgust for Terry.
This court is so sick and tired of seeing adults ruin and abuse children. These are literally just one step from being babies. They come to a daycare, those parents struggle so that when they release their children to someone during the day, they have some semblance that that child is going to be protected and safe. You violated a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old.
She sentenced him to 22 years in prison. Anger overwhelms us in repugnant situations. But what about judges who just don't like listening? Like Judge John Russo, who got fed up with the interruptions of a man in court. Who was the accused? Franklin Williams, 23 years old, convicted of aggravated robbery, kidnapping, theft, unauthorized use of credit cards, and carrying weapons under disability. Yeah, quite a character. During the trial, Williams was unbearable, screaming and talking incessantly, despite Judge Russo's orders for him to remain quiet.
I came and took my cell phones yesterday, and they came and took all my property out my cell today.
Mr. Williams, I'm the judge in the matter. Shut your mouth, and I'll tell you when you can talk. You got it?
Franklin even went so far as to interrupt his own lawyers. He had been warned to stay hushed, but never listened.
I'm going to interrupt. Mr. Williams, listen to me. If we have to, I will gag you in 1 second. So listen to me. You will get a chance to talk. I'm going to gag you in 1 second. So just listen to me. Zip it until I give you a chance to talk. You'll get a chance to talk.
Finally, with patience completely exhausted, Judge John Russo ordered the officers in court to tape his mouth shut so the trial could proceed.
Chance to speak at sentencing. Take me off. Now I'd like you to speak.
Mr. Williams, I want to make it real clear. If you spit on, attempt to bite, or injure any of my deputies, you're going to have a bad day.
None of that.
Oh, you
Put
clear?
the tape on me, man. We done with this shit.
Ultimately, Williams was sentenced to 33 years in prison. Talking too much didn't do Williams any good, much like the case of Judge Gary Bennett, the victim of verbal torrent from a belligerent defendant. Ebony Burks, a 32-year-old woman, was accused of domestic violence and assault against her grandfather, with whom she lived. Her hearing was conducted remotely. The judge assigned to the case was Gary Bennett. You can imagine what happened next. Gary told Burks that she could not contact her grandfather due to the history of violence. This obviously upset and confused Burks, as she lived with him. From there, she started quarreling with Judge Bennett. This angered the judge so much that the sentence was 30 days in prison.
If you live with Mr. McRae, you cannot return to that residence.
Oh, but how you just gonna tell me I can't go home now?
What?
How you gonna tell me I can't go to my home?
I just did.
Well, I bet I do.
Well, then you're in contempt, young lady, and you've got 30 days.
Thanks to this, tension escalated. Brinks continued arguing, becoming more aggressive.
So you're not going to... You're not... What?
Whoa.
Get back! Get back!
You just said I got
Get back! That's another 30 days. That's 60 days.
So what?
90 days.
So?
120 days.
Okay, and?
180 days.
Whoa! Please, quiet.
Even this did not stop Burks. Her diatribe continued incessantly.
Sorry, Your Honor.
Not as sorry as she's gonna be.
I ain't bad. They got something there. I got money.
That's 200 days. You got anything else to say, Miss Burks? That's 300 days!
Some might agree with Judge Bennett's decisions, but not so many agree with Judge Michael Bachman, a stern and unfeeling judge. Michael was a magistrate in Hamilton County, Ohio. While conducting a hearing in the courtroom, a woman's loud shouting at the employees working in the hallways could be heard from outside. This woman was Cassandra Jackson. Cassandra's screams and complaints were so loud that the questions asked by the attorneys inside the courtroom were inaudible to the judge. Continuing the trial was impossible. Cassandra was shouting because she was told she had missed her appointment to file her protection order due to not being punctual for the meeting. Cassandra was frustrated. Her mistake? Loudly, fearing for her safety, right in the hallway that led directly to the courtroom where Judge Bachman was conducting proceedings. Bachman lost patience and halted the ongoing hearing, leaving the courtroom to follow Cassandra down the hallway, ordering her to enter his courtroom. Guided to the witness stand, Cassandra was sentenced to 3 days in jail for contempt of court, which caused her to cry and resist. By Bachman's orders, Cassandra was restrained, handcuffed, and threatened with a taser. She was heard saying, "Why, every time I come here to get help, you always send me to jail." After this incident, Bachman was stood down. Some judges go too far, and others wish they could give the death sentence, like Judge John McBain, a distinguished magistrate who exploded in court at Camia Gamet, a 31-year-old woman responsible for her boyfriend's Marcel Hill's death. Gamet and Hill were opposites. Hill suffered from severe mental health problems, cognitive impairment, and physical disabilities. Still, Hill exuded complete kindness and honesty. On the other hand, Gamet was a chronic drug addict with erratic fits of rage. She had been arrested numerous times on domestic violence charges. Apparently, Camia repeatedly beat Marcel before the murder, from blows to the head with a hammer to stabbing with a knife that perforated his lung. Hill never dared to give it up. On May 18, 2013, police were alerted by a neighbor who called 911 after hearing Gamet and Hill fighting. What did the police find? Marcel Hill's body with 11 stab wounds in the torso. Gamet, without injuries to her body, was arrested. Gamet claimed to have killed Hill in self-defense at the trial, but her lie would soon fall through. The court found her testimony false. The real Camilla appeared as she began to sneer at Hill's family statement. She was a woman without regrets. Now, what did John McBain say? Well,
gutted him like a fish in that apartment too. You were relentless. You stabbed, you stabbed, you stabbed, you stabbed, you stabbed until he was dead. You didn't think he was an intruder. You know, maybe one stab wound. Okay, maybe that's self-defense. But you put in 11 more to make sure he was good and dead. So I agree with the family. I hope you die in prison as well. You know, if this was a death penalty state, you'd be getting the chair.
Strong and accurate statements. Horrific things can be heard in the courts, some more chilling than others, much like these cases.